Hello again. We are Chris Lee and Chase Robinson of Southeastern 16, set to preview Oklahoma's Week 2 matchup with Houston. You can get that at 6:45 Central on the SEC Network, or not if you're a DirecTV customer like me. Houston lost its opener 27-7 to UNLV in Willie Fritz's debut as the Houston head coach. Oklahoma, meanwhile, rolled Temple 51-3 behind a dominating defensive performance. Oklahoma is a 29.5-point favorite at BetOnline with an over-under of 52. The Vegas predicted final, therefore, Oklahoma 41, Houston 11. And speaking of BetOnline, Chase, tell folks who sponsors our channel.
Yeah, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. And if you think you know your stuff, you can get in on a $200,000 mega contest. Pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, go to the online casino, play a game of blackjack or poker or one of the over 150 slots games. So head over to the website today to get on the action. Bet online. The game starts here.
All right, let's talk about Houston's offense versus Oklahoma's defense. Oklahoma just dominating defensively last week against Temple, for whatever that's worth. What I think it's worth, I think Oklahoma's defense is really good no matter who it plays. But Houston's offense, boy, it did not go the way Willie Fritz wanted it in week 1. Fritz is a really good offensive coach, but I think he's got his hands full with the talent he inherited. They had 59 yards in the first half against UNLV. Donovan Smith, their quarterback last year, threw for about 3,000 yards, but he had off-season labrum surgery. I wonder if that affected him. He was 15 of 31 for 136, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Rushing was supposed to be an emphasis for the Cougars. However, they ran 27 times for 26 yards as a team. That does not allow for sacks. Don't know what that would have been otherwise, but still not good. Again, running game is supposed to be an emphasis. This is not a defense you want to run into when you were struggling on offense, Chase.
No, it's not. Yeah, I was really surprised by Houston's offensive performance. And you're right, maybe the injury had something to do with it. But I just, from what they were in the last couple of years, what they were a year ago to what they were on Saturday, it was just kind of surprising to me. But yeah, when you run up against this defense from Oklahoma, and Chris, we've spent a lot of time talking this preseason about Oklahoma and how this should be the best Brent Venables defense we've seen at Oklahoma. And it was everything they hoped for Saturday to me, or on Friday night, rather, to me. And you look at, because they've got guys like Danny Stutsman, who a lot of folks were talking about at the preseason, Billy Bowman. And then you add guys like Ethan Downs and Kendall Dolby and Gentry Williams, Woody Washington. You look at the front guys and Caden Woolard and Damon Williams, DeJohn Terry, and these guys who are great up front. They have a great secondary. I mean, this is a defense. This is a elite level defense that Oklahoma has. They brought in a new defense coordinator in Zach Alley. Brent Venables did, who he's worked with before. And so I think what we're seeing with this Oklahoma defense is kind of what we saw with some of those Clemson defense that Brent Venables had when he was a coordinator. These are some elite guys. This is an elite defense. And if you're any offense in college football, I would be concerned when the matchup comes with Oklahoma.
Yeah, it feels like they are developing depth on the defensive line.
Yeah.
We know they've got a safety and a linebacker that I don't know that Oklahoma would trade for anybody. They've got depth on the defensive backfield. The defense, I think, what was it, forced 6 turnovers last week? I mean, it was everything that you had hoped it would be and more. And I just think it's a very one-sided matchup. Now, I think the other side, a little bit more interesting. Oklahoma wasn't quite what we wanted to see on offense. Now, there were admissions by Brent Venables and Seth Luttrell afterwards that the playbook was very vanilla. You had some injuries early in that one to your center transfer from SMU. That was a big one. They shuffled the offensive line early in the first quarter. Branson Hickman, excuse me. You had, I guess, a soft tissue-ish injury with Gavin Sawchuk. That was rumor on the internet or rumor in our chat after the game. I'm still not sure I've seen it. It's probably out there. So it wasn't great, but they still got 51 points. And the defense last week wasn't really the issue. They allowed 113 passing yards, 185 rushing. They just couldn't stay off the field in the first half. But it was not a good defense last year. I think ranked 100th the worst in most statistical categories. Not a lot of star power there. Jamal Morris, Michael Batton led the team with 9 tackles last week. I think I'm interested to see what they do. I'm guessing they're going to hold Hickman out as they've got an easier first part of the schedule. But I think my concern for Oklahoma was just, I'm not going to say it looked disjointed, but when that injury to Hickman happened, they didn't really take a lot of chances. They had the thing at the running back room. I think Oklahoma's offense is going to be fine eventually, but we would have liked to have seen more in week 1, and I'm interested to see what we see in week 2.
Yeah, and you're going to get this some vanilla, in the first game. They don't want to show everything against Temple, and so I think we will see much more against Houston. I think we'll see some more against Tulane. I think we'll see a lot versus Tennessee, and so I think they're starting to work some things in. I can't wait to see more of Jackson Arnold and what he's able to do, and even this week against Houston and in the weeks to come, and see how Sawchuk develops and see some of these wide receivers get in. Deion Burks looked good the other night. But you mentioned the offensive line and what they do, how they're going to shuffle things around to make this a good offensive line, to give time for Jackson Arnold to work, to give time for these running backs to get going. So I think there's a lot. I think we'll see way more this week against Houston than we saw against Temple, and rightfully so if you're Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're eventually going to get it right offensively because that's what Oklahoma always does. And let's talk predictions and get to it. I think the defensive matchup when Oklahoma's on the field is very one-sided. The offense was a little underwhelming for Oklahoma. They've got Tulane next week. They're going to be favored in that one. And you heard Brent Venables admit that they were vanilla based on the opponent. I'm going to presume because my model, it's not my model. I use about 5 sources, and it's got Oklahoma by about 25.5. That doesn't feel like enough, but I think that Vegas predicted final 41-11 is about how I see this going. Oklahoma just kind of vanilla on offense, slow plays. It lets its defense make plays. They may not want to show much with Tulane next week. Tennessee is the one you're circling in 2 weeks. I think that game with the Vols and Norman is pretty good. I don't know that Oklahoma is going to just overwhelm them from the jump and, win 63-7, but I could see them kind of methodically taking apart Houston the way that they did Temple last week. Although Houston's a better team than Temple. I like them to win, but I don't know that it's going to be the absolute blasting that we saw with a lot of SEC teams last week. I think the spread is about right. It's interesting that the computer model has got the spread being 4 points too high. I think the computer's a little slow to catch up with things, but I think Oklahoma wins this one pretty decidedly either way.
I think so too. I think this will be another really good Oklahoma win, and I think we'll see more. And if it does end up being a huge blowout, maybe like it was Friday, maybe that shows, hey, Oklahoma is. Yeah. We ought to be talking about them a little bit more, but I really respect Oklahoma. I like where they're at. Again, defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. It wouldn't surprise me if there's several shutouts pitched by Oklahoma this year. That's how good this defense is. But, yeah, I really like Oklahoma in this game against Houston.
We're taking the Sooners big in this one. We'll be here to talk about it afterwards. We usually do Saturday night recaps. Best way to get those. Hit that subscribe button, enable your notifications. We do those live. We'll take your questions, your comments, whatever, and tell a friend. Also, if you're interested, we reach millions of viewers a year. Caroline.smith@Southeastern14. Yes, we've changed our name, but the email will still get there. Southeastern14.com for your advertising inquiries. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 16, presented by Bet Online.